Sorry about that. Hey guys, today I'm showing you how to use FL. It's part one of the however many part tutorial on how to make stuff with FL, how to use FL in general. So ignore that. That's what it's licensed to, and I didn't quite buy the program. So when you open FL, let's say close it. No, let's open FL here. When you open it up, you get this thing here. Should be pretty much blank unless it's the first time you're opening it. And what this is here, the big thing, says playlist. It's a playlist, and you can also access it by clicking on the top left box here. This is where you put all your patterns from the step sequencer here, like piano roll notes and audio clips to make songs. So say right now, if you click, you can choose pattern 1. If you put it down, there won't be anything, and you can move it around like that. So that's how you do it. You can put it on different lines, click to place them, or click to erase them, so on. Trackpads, man. There we go. Alright, so if you scroll down here, there are a load of more tracks if you ever want to use them. I think I only used down to 37, I think, because I had a lot of automation in the song, but you can use those. You can also mute them to play individual ones. Or to solo them, you can right click on channels. So if I want to solo track 1 and 4, you right click on one of them and click as you normally would on another. And now 2 are playing instead of all of them. You can individually mute tracks by clicking if you want to hear sound clearer or for other purposes. So that's that. And up here are time indicators based on bar and measures its music. It should be 4/4 time unless you switched it in your options. So that's that. You can close it like this. You can also press enter to scale it down. I always do this if I'm using the pattern or the step sequencer. Press X if you don't need it. And if you click on this, the thing under the X, and scroll it, you can increase and decrease the size of them. So that was the playlist. I think I'll go to the mixer now. It's pretty important. Yes. So the mixer is where everything should route into. And by default, everything should route into the master, not any of the inserts, which are routed to the master. The way that this works is, if I have a sound routed to insert 1, I can put effects on it and route it to the master, which also has effects on it for the master. I can also route, say, insert 2, which is a synth, into insert 10, and route insert 10 into the master, and I can sidechain on insert 10 with the kicks from insert, say, 2 or 1. Sidechaining, it's another tutorial, but it's basically audio ducking. So that's the mixer in a nutshell, how to use it. You can solo like you can in the other one, also by pressing X when you're highlighted on a channel. Did I say X? I meant S. There you go. And my cats are in my room. This here is the panning. So panning is the direction in which the audio is playing in. Right now it's center, so whatever input it's getting will be the normal stereo. It'll be the normal stereo information it received without any modifications. Left means it'll only play from the left. Right, same deal on the right. And you can go somewhere in between if you want. Also, if you want to reset a parameter, if it's not at 0%, just right click and reset. Underneath here is a stereo separation, which something with analog about splitting stereo signals from the left and right channels from the center channel. Not too sure about that, but it's like using a stereo separator as a plugin. Here you have the volume, which is pretty self-explanatory. You can also control it with this down here. Once again, I click to reset. Let's talk about routing now real quick. So routing, like I said before, is putting one track to another track, and if you want to put that track into another track, so insert 1 to insert 10 to the master. And to do that, you can click on, it looks like a scroll knob with a kind of bent arrow on it. This means that it's routed to the master, and now it's routed to nothing except the send channels, which are absolutely useless, but they won't play anything because they're at 0%. So if I wanted to route 1 to 10, I'd just click this off, click 10, make sure it's at 100%. You can also turn it up higher, but that's unnecessary. If you want to make your life easier, you can just right click and route to this track only. Now insert 1 is routed to insert 10, and insert 10 is routed to the master. So that's a brief tutorial, how to use the mixer there. And there's more options if you click the arrow here, like disc recording and whatnot. That's pretty neat. So that's the mixer. Didn't miss anything. Some other useless settings here, like reverse polarity, I guess, if you want to do something with MP3s, I don't know. You can again click that to hide the mixer, or by pressing F9. And you can shrink it by pressing enter, but it's a pain in the ass to rescale, so I'll keep it like this. You can rescale by clicking here, by the way. Neat. So, how about the pattern thingy, the step sequencer? This is how you get sounds in the FL Studio if you aren't using samples. Right now, we have a sampler here which you can load an audio sample into and play. Some settings here, we'll cover samplers later, but that is a sampler. If I wanted to put an instrument here, I could right click and replace it with, I don't know, Harmer. And it disappeared. This is the synthesizer, by the way. It's additive. Now you know. For right now, if you click on these things, my tempo is 140 beats per minute, and if I click on these, it will happen once every beat, so quarter notes. But it's held for a long time because if I right click on it again and go to send to piano roll, they're all long notes here. So the step sequencer, if you're using it like that as a pattern editor, you can do for drums because it's mainly an impulse from drums unless it's a loop or something. So you just need short notes for that, but short or long notes. But if you're using actual instruments like a synthesizer, you probably want to use the piano roll. And by default, if I delete things here, it shouldn't have anything, and to get to it, right click and go to the piano roll. And I do have some latency because I'm not using ASIO, which is an audio driver. So if you know how music works, which you should if you're using this thing, and notes work in general, you know that there are 8-ish notes in a scale, and this is on a piano, and this is a piano here, so C harmonic, or C sharp, D, D sharp, so on, and you can make music. You can go crazy. Boom, I made an ARP or something. Beautiful. But you can also shorten the notes by Control A if you want to select all of them, and just clicking on the farthest one with the arrow and dragging it. You can also fine tune your selection with the little dot here, which does some weird scaling with all the notes. Control Z to undo, of course. And yes, right now I'm moving the playback bar, which is it kind of in a way scans the MIDI data and decides what to send the synthesizer, but it's more of a visualization and not actually what's happening. So yes, that's that. And some more fine-tune options within the piano roll. If you double click on something, you can switch the start times, which it depends on your granularity on the time base, P, Q, or something like that. There's other settings like pan, velocity, release, and modulation, as well as pitch, which is fine-tune. Tasty. Yes. Alright, so I guess we'll talk about velocity down here. These things are, like the controls in there, only there for all the notes at once. So right now it's set to velocity, which is how loud the note will be, or how hard the key will be pressed if it was a piano. So it's quiet, it's quiet. It's loud, it might clip. Just barely. And that's how that works. If you right click, you can switch different parameters. Pretty straightforward. And there you go. You can make songs by doing that. I don't know, chords and whatnot. But if you want to record live audio with your keyboard or with your MIDI controller, that's pretty easy. By the way, how to play notes on your keyboard. If you're on a normal QWERTY keyboard, which I'm guessing you are because you speak English, Q and Z are both C. Z, by default, with the piano controls here, is C on the 4th octave. Sound a little out of tune because I was playing C sharp or something. That's C4, C5, and I think P or O. Well, I'm off. Indeed, it's I. So those are all the C's and in between. So Q, the in between key, say that's the black key on a piano. That would be 2, and that would be C sharp. W, it's going up chromatically, so C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, and so on. And don't press 4 because there's no E. Well, there is E sharp, it's just considered F, and yes. There's a riff there, why not? I think the fine pitch is off. Again, right click, reset, yada yada, your life's good. If you want to record audio with your keyboard actually, or record keys, you press the record button up here, and it has some parameters like automation and score, which is the ones you want to choose, and it should give you a 4-note, or a 4-beat, kind of like a cowbell. It's not a cowbell, it is a... It sounds like that. So you can wait for that. Man, I'm such skilled at the music, so I just played blues or something, and click record again to stop. Man, quantization, man. That's a piano roll in a nutshell. There's also more controls if you click the arrows up here, like actual quantization. Quantization should be. Quantizate. Yep, that is right. There's those tools, there's shortcuts for it. Pretty neat, a lot of them are. There's the magnet here, which is your alignment, which I think by default it's set to either step or beat. I like quarter step because it's pretty accurate. And drop down here with more options. If you want to, you can actually export MIDI data to a PDF for scores. That is the piano roll. And what am I missing? This thing here, which should be like this by default, but mine hides because I clicked the setting. This is your browser within FL. So you got your current project and whatnot. It should look like this. Sound fonts, samples, which is where a lot of the drums are, which is in packs. Not samples, it's just called packs. There's a lot of stuff in there. Pretty easy. One thing that I learned, if you want to make different ones for different purposes, you just press different keys just press different numbers on your keyboard. So 1's the one I always use, 2's the big one, which is default, and that's pretty much all I use. And there's 4 snapshots. So how do I get it to hide like this, which is pretty nifty? It gives you more space. You click here and you click on auto hide, and because it's a little smaller, you go to size, switch to small. I usually use compact on a monitor, but I'm on a laptop now. So again, you can click that to hide it. And here's something neat I learned. If you want to open your plugin picker, which is how you can find your plugins, right click it. And it's probably going to lag. Oh no, not too bad. This is all the plugins that you've taken thumbnails of and put in your plugin picker. There's your synthesizers and whatnot. And that's pretty neat. So let's go to the top part now. This is your time display, which is a time display. You can switch different parameters with these two here. Pretty straightforward. Then you have your monitor here, which is default set to an oscilloscope. Let's make some crazy waveform here. I'll grab a patch. That won't murder my CPU. There, it's a pretty crazy waveform. It's resynthesis, another tutorial someday. Click it, your band view or spectrum view, however you want to call it. Bass on the low end and high to the front part. And your monitor to make sure nothing goes above 0 dB, which causes clipping. You can access that by clicking it. I like oscilloscope. Next to it, you have your CPU monitor, which when you saw, I used this patch on the perfect precision preset for Harmer. It kind of spiked at 50. This is it's not your Windows Task Manager, or it's, if you look in there, it won't be the same as here because the way that the engine processes it is what this is, I guess. Then your RAM, I have 8 gigabytes, I don't need to worry. And the polyphony, which is how many different notes and keys are played at once. So this should be 1 because it's one sound, even though there's loads of harmonics in it. If you have multiple sounds, 2. That sounded pretty awesome, actually. Oh, that's pretty messy. And you can set limits for the polyphony, and you can, well, that's in a different panel in the settings, the options. But if you right-click, you can switch your speed. I think you should put it on fast in your memory settings. Then there's this thing here, which is your quick kind of shortcuts to the actual music making things, and you can click on that, drag it around, go crazy, and then you can do that with everything here. So next thing here, I almost forgot about this. This is your kind of fine-tuned controls, the master volume here, which it doesn't actually affect the mixer channel. This is the output overall. Surprised that's not clipping like hell. Reset again, and your master pitch, which is in cents, and I think 12,000 cents is the same as 1,200 cents is 12 semitones, which is 1 octave. You can go crazy with that. Next to it, it is our play, stop, record options. So pattern and song, which is between patterns here and the song itself in the playlist. You can switch off like that. Then you have the play button, of course, stop button. Never press a play button twice. And you can shortcut these just by pressing space, which is play and stop completely, not pause. And of course record. There's some audio recording options too, but I find it easier just to go into here and use Edison myself. Tempo, you can right click, choose some options here, pretty easy. Then you have your pattern selector, which is another way to choose patterns, as you see in the right here. I forget what it's called, step sequencer. Next to it, you have some buttons that I never use except for this piano one here. If you right click that, there's some different piano layouts like blues. Probably shouldn't use that patch though. Let me just get a lead. There's a blues for you. And the default is set to piano, which, you know, it's standard piano with the blacks and the pearls, whatnot. Next to it, you have your countdown before recording, which is the countdown before recording. Who would have fucking guessed? And next to it is blend recording. I'm guessing that's something to do with keys and slides. I never used it. Loop recording, that's something with recording, I guess. Never used that either. Then enable note clip groups. Never used that with the notes, but I think I know what it does. Read the manual if you want to know more. Metronome, we all know. It keeps time for you. Next to it, which is wait for input before to start playing. If you press space, you'll have to press a key before it goes. Like that. Pretty useful if you're recording. Step editing mode, which is... I just got something on Skype. Step editing mode, which is, I think, well, step editing is instead of putting individual notes down, or individual points in an automation clip, you kind of draw with a pencil, I think, and I hope, maybe. Don't take me up on it. Scrolls to reach time markers. This is if you're in the playlists. Playlist. If you click it, probably won't do anything because I have nothing in it. Yeah, it stays in place or something. And then this thing, the multi-link to controllers, I think this is the most used option I use here, which is if you click it, you can route automation to external plugins like VSTs and even sometimes a Citrus. Some parameters work there, but you just click that and you tweak it, and all is good. You just right-click and choose your form of automation. That's very neat. Here, I don't even know what this one is. I know it's snapping, but I never use it. So here's the user interface in a nutshell. And one more thing before you start making music, quite helpful. Go to options, go to audio settings, and if you have Audio installed, lucky you. You should probably have it installed. You're going to click this, switch to Audio all. I can't because it'll stop the recording. I did have some underruns, and that'll prevent most underruns from happening by reducing the overhead from the CPU to the sound card, and vice versa. Some more settings here, like the priority, just max it out. Should be highest. The playback tracking, not sure what this does, doesn't affect performance too much. CPU stuff, enable all of it. Mixer resampling. This is kind of, it's mainly if you're using high quality audio clips or audio clips in general in your playlist. So I have it set to 16-point sync, and sync is a reconstruction filter or a reconstruction curve, something like that. And 512-point usually murders your CPU if you have a long clip in it and you have a bad CPU, because it's kind of like an anti-aliasing thing where 16 points, there's like 16 points in a curve or something, linear, so on. I'm not too sure on it, but on a Xeon I had at 3.3 gigahertz, you can run 64-point sync, no problem. 128, some issues. 256, hell no. And these two options here, definitely play truncated notes. No, wait, that's another option. Ignore that. And there's preview mixer track. I don't know what that does. And one more thing before this is over, you're going to want to go to project in general. Time-based PPQ is kind of a CPU killer if you're using a lot of different notes, and this is the precision of the MIDI notes and the playlist. So that's that. One more thing before you start ripping your hair out, if you're started making songs and they keep playing even after the clip is canceled out, play truncated notes and clips. That's how you do it. As far as that's all you need to know to start making stuff in FL. See you guys in the next one. Bye.